Yeah, thanks, Heather. This is a good tag team we have going here, and just want to thank everybody for letting me to present today. I've presented at multiple of these conferences over the years, and I always have fun because we actually have real data to present. And I also want to thank Dr. Sands. That was probably the most comprehensive review I've seen recently of all the data on the lung screening. Very good. So I'm going to move on from who do we screen to what did we find. So here's where we are today, really after, I'm going to say 3 years of screening, because the first year was just getting up and running. So it's maybe 3.5 years of screening. We've diagnosed 121 cancers through this statewide screening program. And you can see the breakdown there as what we're looking for is non-small cell lung cancer, and we do have a little smattering of small cell, but that really does compare quite well to the National Lung Screening Trial, where they had 92% of their cancers in the non-small cell range, and we're 96. For those that are old oncologists like myself, when I started, we were always told 20% of all of our lung cancers are going to be small cells back in the 80s or 70s. It isn't that way anymore, and that's probably because of the decrease in smoking. So our cancer detection rate today is 121 cases out of 8,500 screens at about 1.4%. Now, in the National Lung Cancer Screening Trial, they were at 0.86, but these numbers are not actually able to be compared that well because ours at 1.4.2% include baselines N1 and 2, and I wasn't able to call that out yet. So we're higher than that because, as you've seen over and over again, you pick up most of your cancers on the very first screen. But I think the answer is we're certainly in the realm and maybe a little higher than what the detection rate was in the clinical trial. So again, here's just a representative of what we've seen per year in the total number of screens performed per year and the rate of cancer. And as you can see, it started out a little higher at 1.7, 1.8, because again, most of those folks in those first year and a half there were at their baseline screen, and you see it's coming down over time. And again, what I don't have, and we're going to talk about this, is I haven't been able to call out at what level of screening were you at baseline, your first or your second, and we'll have to get that data later on. And then again, here's the number of cancers diagnosed per year, and you can see we're tracking right along there. And now the important thing is, we've heard today, is the stage of the diagnosis is the key thing here, because this is where we can make a difference with early stage diagnosis, particularly with stage 1 disease. And you heard Governor Carney talking earlier about what's the return on investment here, and Dr. Sands alluded to that. If you look at the cost of treating stage 4 lung cancer now, and that gets there, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, which in a way is a good thing, because for the first time ever, we have really effective treatments that keep stage 4 lung cancer patients alive for years, and maybe even a tail of 20% that are cured. But the drugs are very expensive, and at least 50% of all the stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer patients either have a targeted molecule now or the immunotherapy. So you're talking about half of them running those hundreds of thousands of dollars per year per several years. So we haven't even put that economic analysis into this. But certainly this is going to improve our cost issues here too. And then here are the lung cancer stages we saw at diagnosis per year. And again, predominantly what you're seeing there is early stage disease defined as stage 1 and 2. And then this pie chart compares what our results are to date compared to the clinical trial. And you can see, as Dr. Sands was pointing out, we're now over 50% of our cases in stage 1 disease, and far exceeds the gray bar there is stage 4 disease. So I think this is exactly what we want to be seeing. And again, it's too early to begin to look at mortality in the state of Delaware on this thing, but this is where you want to be that'll predict that mortality should come down over time. So here are the screening conclusions that we've drawn to date. Lung cancer screening in Delaware has increased at greater than a 30% rate per year since its inception in 2015. And I did some extrapolated data here, since I didn't know exactly how many patients, but based on where I thought each year was on the baseline versus 1 and 2, I think to date of that 35,000 patients that we estimated are eligible for screening in the state, we've probably screened 10 to 12% of them. Okay? Which I think for a brand new screening program, a new paradigm in screening, and a beginning program, doggone it, I think we've done pretty good in 3 years to get 10 to 12% of all the eligible patients in an entire state into the screening program and done. I challenge anybody to show me they've done that somewhere else in the state. Our compliance rates, as we saw, are now increasing at our sites, which shows the effectiveness of the infrastructure that's been put in place, with now 2 of the sites showing 95% or more of the individuals that walk in there that are eligible stay and get their scan done. And we are seeing, as I pointed out, that our detections are early stage, and this is also fairly favorably comparable to the national clinical trial, and I think it forebodes mortality decrease. And right now, it appears our detection rates may be a little higher than in the trial, but we've got to refine our data a little more to be able to make that statement. What are the challenges to date? For us right now, it's data collection and consistency. And as we pointed out here, and Nora can talk about this when she's on the panel here, we've got some data repositories in different places, and trying to get the data out of them all has been somewhat difficult, and we need to work that one out. There's imaging site insurance information that's a little difficult to get, and some of the eligibility information we've had trouble getting. And I want to put this on here because, you know, listen, all of us in healthcare at all levels are dying from the administrative burden. Talk about the reasons of physician and team and everybody else burnout. It's this tremendous amount of administrative burden we have. So I think we really have to be mindful here as we try to improve our data set. We have to be mindful of those that are collecting the data, because we just can't keep asking for more and more things. We have to figure out an efficient way to get the numbers that actually I could present even better data on, but we really have to be mindful of that. One of the things we have to do is make sure we're very well coordinated with our tumor registries, because what we're going to need to do here is now follow these individuals that we've actually screened and diagnosed cancer on and see what is the outcome over time. Again, we're a little early in the course of outcomes, but that'll be the next thing. And those who lived through the colorectal screening program that was so successful, this is exactly what we did there. We had stops along the way that said we're finally going to get to a mortality drop, which we finally got to, but it took about, in colorectal cancer, probably about 7 or 8 or 9 years to finally close down mortality issues in that. So we're just at the beginning of that. And then, of course, the bottom line here is, as I said, I think we should be very proud that 10 to 12% in a very short time period in Delaware have had their lung cancer screening. But look at the other screening rates. Breast and gynecologic cancer is greater than 90%. Colorectal cancer screening is now 75% plus. So the answer is we got a long way to go. But again, pat yourself on the back, because I think for 3 years into this, I can't complain about 10 to 12% of all potential screens entering into the program. But we still have a lot of work to do. So what are the next steps? We need to work towards getting the ACR database up and running and have access to that for the program here. Heather pointed out the BRFIS data will be helpful in trying to figure out how much we are penetrating our market here for who should be screened. As I said, we need to have longitudinal tracking of the stage and diagnosis and outcomes of the patients. And of course, education is one of the key things here. We have to continue to pound on the education here. As Dr. Sands showed, the less knowledge our primary care docs had, the less likely they were to get people into screening programs. So here are a couple of my final thoughts on this. I always like to kind of sit back and say, gee, what's this all mean to me? Well, again, the first state remains the only state in the United States with a statewide comprehensive lung cancer screening program. So again, congratulations to everybody in this room that's made this possible. Delaware is again being recognized in the cancer control realm as an innovative statewide cancer control program. And I can tell you, I'm going down to Atlanta in early June to the American Cancer Society, because they and ASCO are going to team up to say, what did we learn in Delaware, and can we together go to a larger region or state and scale up what we're doing in Delaware right now? As I pointed out earlier, the early data points towards the ultimate outcome of reducing cancer, lung cancer mortality in the state. And again, I want to just congratulate everybody in this room that's been part of this, because this is well on its way to being another success like we had in colorectal cancer. And I just want to put the names of the folks up there that we should be thanking. This is the Early Detection and Prevention Committee with Heather now as the chair of it. And I just want to thank everybody, including those that helped us put this slide set together, Darcy, Kathy, Scott Holloway, and others on the list. You really helped us out a lot on that. So I think Heather and I are open for any questions that you might have, and I appreciate it. And I think hopefully you found that information good and we're in the right direction for where we're going. Any questions? Nick?
Steve, I realize it's early, 3 or 4 years, but I would imagine that the 121 cancers were caught first time around and not follow-up?
I can't tell you that yet. We had a lot of the cancers were in the first two. Well, you saw it kind of came down a little bit. So again, when we got out to our second, third, and fourth year of screening data, then we're getting a mixture of round 1, round 2, and round 3. We need to go back and call out which round they were in, and I don't have that right now. But again, your biggest yield in the beginning is on your first round. But again, I think the other thing that's happening, and Dr. Sands may be able to comment on this, the question I had at the beginning of this, the clinical trial, as he pointed out, was 3 years and then just follow the patients. What are we doing after that? I think the recommendations now are to continue to screen until you're 80, or if you're past 15 years from stopping smoking. Is that correct now? So again, we're going to be picking up those cancers further and further out now. That, as you saw on his chart, when you were past your 3 years of screening and stopped in the trial, there were higher stage diseases found earlier. So again, later, I think, again, this will have a bigger impact on that mortality than just 20%. Yep. Any other questions? All right. Yes?
Total screens there, or were those incident screens there, or was that all screens?
That was all screens. Yeah, we got to break down what round they were in, and then how many of them were the extra, at 90 days or 60 days or.
We don't know how many of those are used.
No, don't have that granularity of the data yet. That's why I'm saying we got to really dig into this and get some more granularity out of it. So it's kind of a gross picture right now, rather than as detailed a one as I'd like to get. Okay, keep up the good work. Thank you.